Hi everybody. So in class the other day, we went over the ESIR approval form, but we didn't have time to actually do a manual walkthrough. And so I wanted to create a video so that you could see how the ESIR manual was laid out and how you can use it when you're actually watching the videos that we post a little bit later for you to score the ESIR P or K. So you'll see that the manual has the front cover, and on the front cover it tells you that the ESIP is for preschool, 3 to 4.5-year-olds, and then the ESIK is for kindergartners, 4.5 to 5 years and 11 months. So if you go to the tab that's related, that's blue, you'll see everything related to the ESIP. So ESI preschool. So the early inventory or early screening inventory preschool. And it will actually break it down step by step. So it tells you exactly what the examiner should be doing when they're actually doing this with a child. It shows you examples of what the children should be doing if they're getting full credit. And then if you move through, you'll see every item spelled out for you. It'll even tell you how to give credit. So if you look back at, there's an item back here that has a really good example. So the block building activity, if in the video you see that the child failed or refused, then you go to 1B, copy forms. And so it tells you exactly what to do. It also gives in the gray, if you see that right there, it tells you how to score the item. So 1 point for a structure that looks like the model with enough space between bottom blocks for a pencil to slide through. And so if it's like that, you're going to give them credit for that item, full credit for that item. So if you scroll on through the book, you will come to a point where you see all of the pages. You'll see the back page that tells you the cutoff scores. So for the ESIP, it's going to tell you what score the child needs to get to be in the OK range, what score they need to get to be in the rescreen range, and what score they need to get to be in the refer range. And so it's based on their age, 3 to 3.5, 3.6 to 3.11, and then 4.0 to 4.5. So 4 years and 5 months. So that's also really helpful at the end of each chapter. Then it moves on to the ESIK, and the same thing, it's laid out the very same way for the ESIK. It goes through every single item from the front to the back. Then once you go past that, you'll see all sorts of great examples of how the pages should be laid out. And I'll tell you that one of probably the biggest error that people make when they score the ESIP and the K is that they don't look at these examples. So it tells you exactly, it shows you a really well done example, how it was done, and what errors not to make. So it tells you exactly how to complete it, and it gives you really good examples of how to move forward with the assessment. It also will give you examples of how to circle and note every item. So it shows you exactly how to circle the items, how to score, what you need to do if the child refuses or fails an item, what you need to do. It also shows you how to mark out items if you don't do them. So there are some items that it'll say if your child is in this age range, you don't do this item, and here's how you strike through the item. This page on verbal expression is another common error when people do the ESIR. So if you see, there's a code here for shape. There's a code for color. There's a code for other. And there's a code for name. So when you put what the child's saying in this table, you actually write it down and you give them the credit for it. The codes have to match this table at the bottom. Most people put the scores at the bottom, but they don't put the codes, the matching codes. And so nobody can tell why they gave credit for what. And so that's a very common error when people do this screening. It shows you the same thing for the ESIK. So another example of that same table. So what we plan to do, because we don't have enough manuals for both groups to have one of their own, and we did that activity about how important it is to keep your manual. handy. So what we're going to do is we're going to scan the important pages for you to score into iLearn so you have it available for you at all times in electronic form. So you'll always have the manual available. Another thing I wanted to show you is an example that was done in the past by a past student. So this is the score sheet. So not only do you have the manual, but you also have the score sheet. So this is how you're actually going to score it. You're going to watch the videos, and then you're going to get your score sheet. They're already uploaded in iLearn under the ESIR Materials tab. So you can go ahead and print one out. And you will start by writing your information at the top. So it starts with the child's name. So you'll find out in your video what your child's name is, and you'll write their name there. You are the examiner. So the student is the examiner, and you will refer to yourself as the examiner throughout the rest of the course when you're doing assessments. The school was the TTU CDL Cypress room. If the child doesn't go to school right now, say they're 3.5 and they're home with their mom during the day, then you just put NA in that blank because it doesn't apply to that child. And if they have a teacher at their school, make sure you get the teacher's name. If they do not have a teacher at their school, then just put NA in the blank, or if they don't go to school. The parent questionnaire will also be something that's that's given to you along with the information about the child. So you'll mark that you have the questionnaire. You'll calculate the child's age, which we're going to practice on iLearn this week. So you'll know how to do that. You will mark the gender of the child, so male or female there. And then when you finish, you're going to come back to this part and score. You're going to put your score right up here so somebody can see it immediately. What was their score, and were they okay? Did they need to be rescreened, or did they need to be referred? Then you're just going to go through all the items. And not only does it go through the items in the manual, but it also goes through each item in depth. It tells you exactly what you're supposed to do and how to score it right here on the score sheet. So once you familiarize yourself with the manual really well, you can still rely on the score sheet to tell you exactly what to do. And you'll notice that the examiner in this case wrote lots of notes on the side, which is really good. You'll want to do that even when you're watching the video. It's even great to quote the child. If you hear them say something, just quote what they've said. Then you score all of the items, and you just move through the tool, scoring every item. And then you'll notice what I mentioned earlier about the verbal expression table that's sometimes missed. You'll see that she has her codes there. She's transferred them to the bottom table and assigned appropriate credit in this section. And then this very back page, you'll see some good and bad examples if you look in the manual of how to do this back page. But what you'll want to do is complete this whole section, this whole overall screening experience section, because this is the only piece of information that the family gets or the professional gets if you're passing this off to somebody to make a decision about a child. There's not a report that goes with the ESIR because the screening is standalone. So we don't write a formal report to say what we think about it. It tells whether the child is okay, if they needed to be rescreened or referred. And so we want this information here, this overall experience information, to be really rich information for whoever's getting it to read it. So a family member or a professional will be reading this to make decisions about the child. So we want to make sure that this is it's completely full of information about the screening experience. So make sure that that's completely full. If you didn't notice any speech or articulation errors when the child was speaking, you just mark that everything seemed typical, and then you put no concerns right there in that section. But if you did hear something, let's say that the child had difficulty saying the letter R, then you might mark that there are articulation errors and the child had difficulty with the letter R in that section. So just be specific about what you heard when you heard the child speaking in the video. Then you're going to review the parent questionnaire, because the parent questionnaire may have some parts in it that will help you better complete that overall screening experience section in the back. So if you note that the child's having difficulty sleeping, let's say that the parent questionnaire has something in it about that the child doesn't sleep all night and they're up multiple times during the night. And then you notice in the video that the child has difficulty staying on task. you could talk about the parents reported that the child has difficulty sleeping at night. It could be that they were tired when the screening occurred, and that's why it was hard to stay on task. So a lot of information in the parent questionnaire can help to write this section if there's anything there that you think is applicable to what happened with the child during the screening. So that's just a sort of walkthrough of the manual and the score sheet. And we will post videos in the next couple of days, and you'll go ahead and start scoring it. So you can go ahead and print out the score sheet and go ahead and start scoring the ESIR, the P or the K, depending on the age of the child that is in the video. And so you're going to have to figure out which one actually works for the child that you are seeing. So you'll figure that out. You'll print out the right one. You'll do the child age, make sure it's correct first, and then go ahead and start scoring it based on what you see in the video. And if you have questions at all, you know how to reach myself or Adrian or Emily, and you'll also have Stacy's office hour link that you can click if you need extra help. So reach out if you have difficulty, and we'll see you in class. Thanks.